Hi Beans, welcome back to another video. I'm so excited because I've been working on latte art for a very long time. Progress has been pretty minimal, but I have an expert here who's gonna help me learn, and he's actually been great about giving me some tips along the way anyway, so a lot of that I have you to thank for. Do you wanna tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Tony. I'm a co-owner and founder of Farm Cup Coffee. We have a yellow coffee truck on Santa Monica Boulevard, and I remember meeting Remy and Brandon one day, and I followed them on social media, so I was like, hey, not to make it awkward, but I think I follow you guys, and they're super sweet, very nice, and they came back a couple times, so I think we just kind of, you know, bonded a little bit, and then when I saw that they were trying to create latte art, I was like, hey, I want to help, so yeah, that's why I'm here.
So we're gonna give some tips on making latte art, specifically with matcha too, because it can be, I think, a little bit trickier. And then we're gonna be using plant milk, which is also another added layer of difficulty. So, so hopefully we'll have some good tips and maybe a little bit more progress.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips when it comes to matcha? Do you make it a little thicker for latte art?
Recently I was testing it out, and if it's less thick, it's actually easier to do the latte art.
Interesting.
Because when it's too thick, I guess the suds on top, they kind of like eat the milk crema or the foam. So if it's a little bit looser, then you can get the microfoam better to sit on top.
I love that. Okay, that's a great tip. I've been making it a little extra thick because I thought like make it more like coffee.
Yeah.
Like dark. Okay, how does that feel?
I noticed like actual ceremonial matcha gets very foamy like that, which is fine, but then once you pour into the cup to do the latte art, you kind of have to like mix it a little bit so that it's more smooth on top.
Okay.
That'll get you like the best canvas for the microphone.
So we'll let it like kind of settle a little bit?
Yeah, you know how like baristas always bang on their pitcher? Sometimes they bang their espresso too to get out the bubbles on top.
Since we're using plant milk, do you have any tips on the milk you like to use or what works best? Because it is a little bit trickier than using regular milk.
We tend to use an oat milk as a default on the truck. It's very thick, so you have to stretch it just a little bit in the beginning, which means like having the air towards the surface, and then as soon as you inject some air, you want to dunk it a little bit so that you get that swirl, and so it doesn't overstretch. Otherwise it becomes very foamy, kind of like a cappuccino foam. With Tash, the pistachio milk,
I love Tash.
Yeah, I noticed the texture is very much like regular milk, so you really can't overstretch it too much because it's thinner than like our oat milk. So that one you kind of treat as regular milk.
Oat milk is a good default, and then Tash, if you can find it, is great. I love Tash, you guys probably know that already. So that's another reason why I love, you know, lattes at your place, because it's Ipuro and Tash. I'm like, this is great. We're gonna practice with Tash, and we're using a Breville coffee machine.
Breville espresso.
Breville espresso machine, and it has a milk steamer, which is different than a frother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a Smeg frother and it definitely does not do the same.
Yeah, that one injects like just a lot of air, whereas the steamer like gets that even steam, so it gets the microfoam instead of just like the big bubbles.
Microfoam. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move over.
Oh, the water, got it. Yeah. So I usually do about 8 ounces to have enough milk to be able to steam, because if you don't have enough, then you don't get an even steam either. So usually I start a little bit below the surface, not too much, and then you want to tilt it a little off center so that you can get that swirl. So that's more the sound you want to hear, like the slight hissing of it. And then see that swirl, that's a good sign. See how there's like big air bubbles? You always want to knock that out like that. And that's why you always see like baristas bang on the counter. And then you do want to get some of the bubbles out of there as much as you can. And then I always tilt it at a, I guess that's a, what, 45-degree angle? And then I want to penetrate the middle of it, like pretty high. And then give it a good swirl. And then it doesn't really take much at all. You just want to kind of mix in some of the milk. And then you want to get closer to the surface when you're ready to do your latte art. So when you see that like appear on the surface, that's a good sign. This texture might not be 100% good, but the texture is there. It's just, I think the bubbles are a little bit too big on that. You do let the milk sit a little bit, it separates a little bit more, so it's a little harder to do, but I think that's a good start. Oops, sorry. So you can do a little more milk. Maybe a little closer.
Yeah, I think it's a little frothy, right? Progress!
It's a little.
It's February 16th. Oh my God, tell me you guys see this. I feel like this is the first time I've successfully done something. Like this looks like something. I'm so excited. Holy crap. Tell me you guys see it. This one felt good. Like I could feel the difference. Well, I think this is my prettiest one yet. It's a little lopsided, but that's okay. It's a citrus fern. Obviously. It's been a few days since I had my little lesson with Tony and I learned a lot. I'm gonna share some of the best tips that I found to be helpful with you guys, and I'll show you a couple more latte attempts. It's still a work in progress. It's still going to be. Unfortunately for me, I've maxed out at 2 lattes a day, so that's the most my body can handle, and that means I get 2 tries a day. Some of the most important things that I've learned that I wasn't really implementing before are, number 1, the type of milk. Surprisingly, this is something that we just kind of tested for fun. This is one of the oat milks that I really like to drink with my lattes. It's not a barista version. It's just for, you know, iced lattes, and I'll just pour it over directly with the matcha. When we tried to steam this, it turns out that this actually steams really, really nicely, which is great because some of the barista version milks just have a bunch of added oils and gums in them to kind of help thicken it. And I prefer this one because it's what I would drink if I was just making a basic latte and I wasn't trying to attempt latte art. The other thing was obviously the steaming of the milk itself. I had a lot of trouble with this initially because I didn't know what kind of texture I should look for. What I've learned is that a really helpful marker is feeling the actual pitcher, kind of putting your hand around it and steaming until it's almost so hot you can't touch it anymore. That's a good indicator for when you should kind of stop. With this milk specifically, it's good to go a little bit beyond that touch. So I'll do like super hot and then maybe an additional 5 seconds or something like that. The other thing is obviously your steamer itself. So the steamer is different from a frother. It's literally injecting, I think it's like micro steam or micro foam into your milk. The one that we have at home is a lot less intense than the cafe version of the steamers, so the intensity is much lower, which means that we have to steam for a little bit longer than you would at a cafe. So just kind of go by feel the milk. That should be a good indicator regardless. So with matcha, I've learned that Tash is a really great milk actually, which is amazing because it's one of my favorite milks to use regardless. And when working with Tash, I find that it's helpful to just kind of make your matcha as you would, not too much water, but you also don't want anything too thick. Now with this oat milk, and oat milk can be a little bit trickier with matcha, unfortunately, I find it helpful to make it a little thicker. You want a consistency that's similar to espresso, a little bit on the thicker side, not too watered down, and that just helps, I think, with like keeping the separation of the milk at the top. Also, one thing I think is really helpful is the shape of the cup and the size. I've been working with that little cup as you saw, and it's got a rounded bottom, which supposedly makes it a lot easier, but it's also quite a small quantity, so I don't have to waste too much milk as I'm practicing, and it's a little bit easier to kind of get in there with the art. So I would recommend starting with something smaller. You're gonna waste less milk, and obviously you wanna aim for something with a round bottom. Doing something in like a paper cup, like you get at a to-go cup, is a lot trickier, I would say. Unless you kind of master it, you might wanna hold off. And aside from that, I've ordered some other pitchers to see if it really makes a difference and kind of test out the different shapes. So I'll follow up with you guys and keep you posted on my progress. But that's where things are right now. I also just wanted to say a big thank you because I've had so many of you in my DMs that are baristas or latte art experts helping me with tips, and I so appreciate it because they're things that I would never really think about, and it's just been so nice to have that like extra support. So thank you for sticking around for my latte art journey, and stay tuned. I'll update on Instagram and continue to put it in my vlogs and stuff. and hopefully we can look back and laugh at some of my hideous first attempts. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know by giving it a big thumbs up. If you have any latte art tips that you feel like I've missed, or want to give me a lesson, or have any advice for me, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell button, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye.